Hello, candle lovers! Thank you for tuning in to me today. My name is Greg, and this is all Aboot candles. Happy Sunday, everyone. Every Sunday, I like to do the weekly wax wrap-up. This is when I go through all of the candles that I finished burning recently, talk about how they smelled, how they performed, all of that good stuff. I've got some interesting candles to talk about today. I wanted to try to finish off some Bath & Body Works candles this week that were like new fragrances that are probably still going to be around for Candle Day on the weekend. So we've got Cozy Flannel and Vanilla, Sugared Pine Needles. I finished burning one of these ceramic candles, and it was one of the worst candles that I have ever burned from Bath & Body Works before. Look at that. We've got a lot to talk about. When I'm done talking through all of the candles, we are going to talk about Candle Day. I think we have a pretty accurate, finalized list of which candles we're going to see pop up at Candle Day this year. I'm going to give you my thoughts on those, let you know the ones that I'm going to be buying. And then, of course, at the very end of this, we're going to have to talk about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So let's get right into it, my friends. I finished off the Milk Bar birthday cake candle from Bath & Body Works, and this is their collaboration with that New York bakery called Milk Bar. I thought the packaging on these candles was really nice and fun and colorful. My one note here for the packaging is that, you know, this label in the middle of it, it's like a clear background label here with the sprinkles and whatnot. I kind of wish that this label had sort of wrapped around the entire candle, so we had those sort of sprinkles running throughout the entire jar. I think that would have been a nice touch, is just sort of opposed to this sort of front-facing, you know, confetti sprinkle situation. But still, I thought all of these candles looked really cute and fun and colorful. I really liked this fragrance, actually. It's basically like a bakery vanilla fragrance. You guys all know how much I love vanilla. The scent notes here are layered vanilla cake, creamy frosting, and rainbow sprinkles. Yeah, I mean, this is good. I mean, it's definitely not really anything super special, but I think it's a really well done vanilla bakery fragrance. What it reminds me the most of is probably Sprinkled Birthday Cake, which Bath & Body Works had out, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. Very similar to that, except Sprinkled Birthday Cake definitely had a bit of a stronger, like lactonic, like creamy or milky note in it, which a lot of people found to be kind of sour. I actually really liked Sprinkled Birthday Cake, and I think that I liked it more than this candle because Sprinkled Birthday Cake had a bit more strength and throw, although I still thought that this one did all right. It's a fairly fluffy bakery fragrance, but there is sort of a nice kind of frosting component to it as well, and you get a little bit of that mix of textures. There's a little bit of like a fluffy vanilla in here, but there's also a bit of like a creamier, I wouldn't say like a cream cheese, but a bit more of a creamier kind of frosting texture to the fragrance as well. And I like it. It definitely smells like, you know, a piece of celebration cake, a piece of vanilla sprinkled birthday cake. I think it definitely hits the nail on the head when it comes to what the fragrance was trying to achieve. It's not one of those like Bath & Body Works gourmand like bait and switches where they tell us we're getting like cherry blossom pound cake or a blueberry marshmallow bar and then kind of pull the rug out from under our feet and give us something very different. I think that this is right on the nose for a good piece of vanilla sprinkled birthday cake, and I ended up enjoying it. This candle burned really well. I burned it all the way down till there was nothing left there. A really, really nice, clean burn. This candle was never giving me issues with like dudding out or, you know, itty bitty wicks and teeny tiny flames. And I have to say that a lot of the Christmas and winter candles this year that I've been burning from Bath & Body Works have been dudding out on me quite a lot, no matter what the wick types are like or what the colored wax is. I'm getting a lot of dud outs from the latest like round of Bath & Body Works stuff, but I didn't have that problem with this candle. And I have noticed, and this could just be all in my head, but I've really noticed that when Bath and Body Works are doing their collaboration candles, those candles usually burn really well. I mean, the strength and throw definitely varies, but in terms of like a clean burn that doesn't dud out and burns nicely all the way to the bottom, doesn't get super dirty, sooty, messy, I think Bath and Body Works puts a little bit of extra care into the formula and the burn quality when they're doing like a collaboration. Do you know what I mean? Another interesting thing that I notice about collaboration candles from Bath and Body Works is we often just get a totally plain lid. You know, it doesn't say Bath and Body Works, it doesn't say Milk Bar, nothing, just like a plain lid, which I actually really like. Yeah, I thought this candle was okay, burned really nice. Strength and throw is okay. I'd say that in my more open space, this was probably getting to like a 5 or a 5.5. So I could definitely tell that it was there. It had some presence to it. I did burn it in the bedroom for a little while. Not really the type of fragrance that I like burning in the bedroom, but I wanted to see what the strength and throw would be like in there. It definitely got up to about a 6, I'd say, in the bedroom. But for the most part, I had it in my more open space, and I'd say, yeah, about a 5 or a 5.5. So nothing great, but also, you know, at least I could tell that it was there, which the way things are with a lot of candles these days, hey, if there is at least some presence in a more open space, that's pretty much considered a win these days, unfortunately. Yeah, I liked this birthday cake one. I think I might repurchase it. I might pick up a second one of these on Candle Day, and I have no reason not to recommend it as long as you're not expecting like a real powerhouse when it comes to strength and throw. But I was impressed with the burn, you know, just all the way down to the bottom. No dudding out, no issues, no frustration. That was nice. Now, this is a candle that I think was a little bit less successful. This is the Sugared Pine Needles, and this was a brand new fragrance this year from Bath and Body Works. I like the packaging on this collection. I thought it looked nice. I think there's a really nice sort of sparkly sheen to sort of the gold decor around this circular text box here. I thought it looked all right. We had a white lid with the Bath and Body Works stamp on it, and we had colored wax on this candle as well. I was really looking forward to this fragrance, but I just ended up not loving it. The scent notes on here are sweet pine sap, frosted eucalyptus, and warm spice. I mean, I really thought that I was gonna love this one. Sugared Pine Needles just sounds like something that would be right up my alley, but you know, I was also burning other candles around the same time, like Fresh Balsam and from Bath and Body Works, Fresh Balsam, and also Tree Farm from Bath and Body Works. And I was also burning an Illume candle, which I'll actually talk a little bit about later, Balsam and Cedar. So I was burning other candles around the time that I was burning this one that I just liked quite a bit more. And so the newness of this, the component here that's new, I think, is kind of that sweet pine sap in the scent notes. And it kind of goes really sort of, it goes a little bit sharp for me, a little bit sharper than I would have liked for it to have been, to the point where there's also, I pick up, to me, I'm getting a little bit of a sour component to this fragrance, which I really didn't like. Yeah, and even smelling it now on cold, I think it was maybe even slightly more sour when it was burning, in my opinion. But even smelling it on cold right now, I'm just like, you know, it's not a fragrance that I think I'm gonna be repurchasing, since fragrances like Vanilla Balsam and Tree Farm are always out there this time of year. What this is bringing to the table that is new is not something that I really enjoyed very much. And it's a pretty typical like pine balsamy fragrance, but it's got this weird kind of sharp and sour note to it. And I was really hoping it was gonna be a bit more of a smooth sweetness sweetness, something a little bit more comparable to like vanilla balsam from BBW. But this goes really kind of sharp and sour, and I just didn't end up loving it. I was kind of hoping that it was gonna grow on me, and you know, every time I burned it, I was like, maybe this will be the burn that I really start to appreciate this fragrance, but something about it just really rubbed me the wrong way, and I think that has a bit to do with the balance. I think that the eucalyptus up against that sort of sweet pine note with a bit of an odd spice combination happening as well, just the balance wasn't struck properly, and it just gives kind of an odd, slightly sour vibe for me, and I just wasn't a big fan. This isn't going to be a repurchase for me, and I'm really not going to recommend it to you either, because the candle also didn't perform that well. I mean, it was a pretty clean burn all the way down to the bottom there. As you can see, that wax still looks really nice and clean, and the wicks are still standing up and not looking too gross. However, this was really dudding out on me. Like, the last half of the candle was just dud out burn after dud out burn. I think I took a little bit of wax out of here like twice, which is always a last resort for me. I don't really think it ever fixes the problem long term. Like, when you take a bit of wax out of a candle, sure, it might burn a little bit better for a half hour to an hour, but it usually is gonna go back to that dudding out situation. And yeah, this was a hard one for me to finish getting through, because the last half of it was just such a slow and low burn. Yeah, to the point where it was also really affecting the strength and throw, and I was just burning this while I would have another candle burning that was in a very similar vein, such as a tree farm candle. I'd say that the strength and throw got to about a 6. Like, when there were good deep burns for the first half of the candle in my more open space, I'd say it peaked at like giving a 6 for strength and throw, but the majority of the last half of the candle was just not performing well, maybe giving like a 4.5 or a 5 for strength and throw. It was just, yeah, it was a really frustrating, annoying burn for me, and definitely not going to be picking up a backup of the sugared pine needles on candle day. And also, gosh, I'm going to come across like such a negative Nancy in this video, guys, because after this one, I got to talk about this vanilla bean ceramic candle. This cozy flannel and vanilla, another fragrance that I, in theory, should have really, really loved, but it just didn't hit the spot for me the way that I wanted it to. I will say I really liked the packaging on this collection, and these candles looked beautiful when they were burning as well. In this collection, we also had a fresh balsam, which did quite well and looked stunning and burned really nicely. Yeah, I like the packaging on this and the fun lid on here, something a little bit different from what we usually see at Bath & Body Works. The scent notes on cozy flannel and vanilla just say, your favorite flannel, toasted vanilla, and rich woods. Something about this one just rubs me a little bit the wrong way as well. I feel like I liked smelling it on cold when I first got this candle. I thought on cold it smelled really good and interesting, but when I was burning it, it just didn't really do what I wanted it to. It does remind me quite a bit of the flannel candle from Bath & Body Works, which I don't think I've burned for a year or two, but that candle's been around forever. It's usually a really strong performer. It's a very specific sort of like stern kind of cologne fragrance, and it really does smell to me like almost that exact like flannel scent note is in the mix here, and it's sort of not so nicely balanced with a vanilla fragrance. It's not like a creamy, like gourmand vanilla. It's more like a sort of soft vanilla bean vanilla, and it's a fairly bright vanilla note in my opinion, which is kind of odd because it does say toasted vanilla. There's also a rich woods note in here. I'm not really picking up on that much of a woodsy component either, other than that sort of like masculine texture that the flannel fragrance has. You know, they could have easily, put this in one of their mashup collections, flannel and vanilla bean. I think we all really would have bought that. Something about the way that it's balanced, though, just doesn't quite work for me. I think that if the vanilla note had been upped a little bit more to smooth out the fragrance, I would have liked it a bit more, but it does kind of feel like there's like two things that don't really belong together, kind of butting heads against each other in this fragrance. And so it's not striking a balance that I found particularly appealing. It's not horrible by any means. Like, I just wasn't really blown away by it. And once again, there's just other candles out there in a similar vein to this that I would rather burn. For example, Goose Creek has a candle called Cotton Vanilla Breeze that I really, really love. And that's kind of an interesting one because it's got this very sort of like sun-drenched linen-y cashmere vibe going up against this sort of like soft, warm vanilla bean fragrance. And for whatever reason in that Goose Creek candle, it really works for me. And I just think that it has to do with, you know, personal preference and the way that that balance is sort of stricken between the scent notes in the fragrance. But something about this just comes off as a little bit too abrasive. Yeah, something about this one just didn't really do it for me, guys. You know, and I'm looking at this right now. I actually think that I've got one more burn left on this candle. I've still got about this much left on here, so I'll probably burn it one more time just for the heck of it. But it kind of goes to show that I wasn't that heavily invested in there. In my mind, before I actually stopped to take a look at it just now, in my mind, I had kind of finished it and was over it, but I've still got at least one more pretty solid burn on here. So I didn't quite burn this one all the way down to the point where I could see the wick nickels. There was a little bit of sooting. I don't know if you can pick up on a little bit of that dirtiness around the side of the jar there and a little bit of discoloration in the wax. Not the cleanest burn by any means, you know, and I'm really careful about how I burn like 3-wick candles. I usually limit it to like a 2-hour burn, 3 hours max. I'm really good about trimming my wicks, and so I really don't know what could have happened to cause even just a little slight bit of dirtiness there. Seems kind of odd. This was all right for strength and throw. I'd say that it was probably like a 6 in my more open space. A 6 is pretty good. However, when it was burning, I really got more of the flannel component to it than I did any of the vanilla. The vanilla was still there, but I feel like I pick up on the vanilla a bit more on cold than I do when the candle was burning, which is also probably part of the reason why it ended up being a bit of a disappointment to me. You know, it reminded me quite a bit of flannel when it was burning, but not quite as strong. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a rave review by any means. Like, it kind of just smelled like a weaker version of flannel in a way. Yeah, not gonna be a repurchase for me or a recommendation for you. Just not. For me, it's just kind of missing the mark in terms of like the execution of the actual fragrance. But yeah, that's cozy flannel and vanilla. Now we're gonna have to talk about vanilla bean. I finished up 2 vanilla beans here. One was the ceramic jar version, and one of them was the White Barn fall version from this year. And I actually really like the vanilla bean fragrance from Bath & Body Works. I know that makes me really, really basic, but I've always thought this was a good fragrance. The candle has never had particularly good strength or throw, and so I do usually burn 2 of these at one time in my more open space to get some strength and throw out of it. The scent notes on vanilla bean are Madagascar vanilla bean, homemade marshmallows, and warm cinnamon nutmeg. You know, I've never really picked up that much on the cinnamon in here. It just says what? It says warm cinnamon nutmeg. Yeah, I've never really picked up on the cinnamon. To me, this is just a really nicely balanced, kind of bright, smooth, and sweet vanilla bean fragrance. And I've always thought that it's a pretty good vanilla bean fragrance, but it never really delivers on the strength and throw that you would like for it to. And I also have to say that these two candles performed extremely differently. Like, it was like dealing with 2 3-wick candles that were from completely different companies. I thought that this white barn version looked pretty nice. I do like the sort of frosted glass that they used for this collection, just a plain lid on there. And then the ceramic collection, I mean, I thought that these looked okay. I'm not super obsessed with the stamped B&BW circular kind of logo in the center there. The way that it looks like those letters are kind of smushed together, I think they could have done something a little bit better in terms of that. But I do like the sort of vertical ridges, like the design of this ceramic vessel. I thought it was nice enough. I like the way that it looked on my coffee table for a while, but this candle was an atrocious burn. This candle got finished off outside. It was such a weird and dirty burn. It was completely different from the way that this one performed. So this white barn version had plain like white wax and really thin core wicks, as you can see there. And this ceramic version had extremely thick wicks, like the thickest wicks that I think I've seen on a Bath and Body Works candle for a while. And it also had sort of a slightly kind of like creamy colored wax on it. But look at those crazy wicks. And I mean, look at all of this soot that ended up on the side of the jar. Some of that is my fault, so we'll get into that as well. But look at those wicks. And this is like, I burned it down. Like I said, I burned it outside because this just got too sooty for me. I burned it down till there was like nothing left. And the fact that those wicks are still so tall and thick and greasy looking, like really not good. I'd say that the first couple of burns on here were okay, but I realized very quickly that these jars get extremely hot, like much hotter than this one does. Like, and I'm assuming that like a ceramic material that would hold the heat, I think, a little bit more, especially the thickness of this. I do think that it makes sense that this would hold the heat more than sort of a thinner like glass vessel like this. But I think that the big problem with the ceramic candles were these wicks. These wicks were so aggressive that I was gonna burn my house down. Like the first couple of burns were okay as far as like cleanliness goes, but on the second burn I noticed right away, like, holy smoke, this gets hot, and you could not let this candle burn for longer than like an hour and a half maybe. Like after an hour of burning this, I would look at it and there would be a really deep wax pool, and the wicks would be sticking out of the wax pool with like such a height to them. Every time I went to burn this candle, I would trim those wicks down like to little stubs, and within an hour of burning, it was a roaring fire happening in this ceramic jar. Like it just got so hot so fast, really had to limit the burn times on here. The third burn was when I was like, oh, this candle isn't working at all. The third burn, I had it lit for maybe about an hour, and I looked over at it on the coffee table and just black soot billowing off of it. Like billowing off of it. And I had only had it lit for like an hour. So I blew it out, and when you blew out this candle too, just billowing smoke. Like I was worried my smoke detector was gonna go off. It was just a wild burn. And I was just like, oh, on top of that, I wasn't getting any strength and throw, I don't think, out of this one at all. Like nothing. I was getting some strength and throw out of this version here. This version actually burned nicely and did all right. But this, I mean, I really couldn't smell the vanilla bean on this candle at all. I just think this was a total disaster. I really think that this one was a total disaster. I also bought the ceramic jar mahogany teakwood candle. I'm probably not going to be burning that one until summertime, but I'm already a little bit anxious about how that one's going to burn if it's anything like this. Like I said, I really think the problem here were the wicks. And so anyways, after the third burn, I decided that this needed to become an outdoors candle. And so like I've got kind of a bit of a large sliding door situation that looks out onto like my main area outside, and I can see it. It's very close to where my living space is, and so it's always in my sight lines. And so I do tend to burn candles out there in the evening. I usually put them in sort of a large like tempered glass like blue sort of vessel like vase, like kind of use it like a hurricane. I'll put candles in there and like burn them outside because it just gives some lighting out there and a nice glow. And so this became an outdoors candle. And even though I would burn it outside and I would let it burn longer than I should have, I still never let this candle burn longer than 3 hours. I mean, it felt like a real safety hazard at times, you guys. It really, really did. It's part of the reason why I burned it outside in a big hurricane, you know? Look at all of this soot. Like, look at that. And I'm telling you, I let it burn longer than I should have, but I never let it burn longer than 3 hours. Like, this is just an unacceptable amount of soot for when you're only burning this candle for like 1.5 to 2.5 hour increments, you know. And you know, the very last burn on here, I definitely let it go off for like 3 hours, and that's when the majority of this sooting happened. But still, just unacceptable. I will not be repurchasing this vanilla bean ceramic jar candle. I will not be recommending this to you. I probably will repurpose this jar for something. I'm not too sure what. I do actually, when I want to use wax melts, I usually will just put wax melts in like a 3-wick candle vessel and put them under a heat lamp because I don't really use wax warmers. So I might clean this out and just use the jar for that. But look at this. Look at those crazy, crazy wicks. Like, this was bad, guys. Really, really bad. Maybe the dirtiest candle that I've ever burned from Bath and Body Works. I can't really think of anything else that was like this, like roaring and scary in recent memory. I really can't. That was such a bad candle. And like I said, really no strength and throw either. And call me naive, but I was thinking to myself, oh, you know, maybe these ceramic candles will do really well. Like, obviously there's a price increase here because of the vessel, but naive me, I'm thinking to myself, ooh, maybe they've upped the fragrance oil a little bit. Like, you know, maybe they'll burn like a really nice, like high quality candle. Nope. Not at all. In fact, quite the opposite. And this vanilla bean was a completely different story. I mean, still not great strength and throw. I'd say the strength and throw on this, in a more open space, you're really not going to have much luck. Maybe a 3 or a 4, meaning that you need to be about 3 or 4 feet away from it to be able to smell it. But in my bedroom, I actually found like this had a little bit of a presence to it and was probably about a 5. So that's not terrible. And also this had just sort of plain wax and really thin core wicks. Look, there's no sooting around the side of this jar. This is a really nice clean burn all the way down to the bottom. Kind of had the opposite problem with this one. It was dudding out a little bit after the halfway point. There was definitely at least one burn on it where it dudded out quite a bit, but I just kind of let it keep burning until it fixed itself, which it eventually did. And I have no complaints, really, for this one. I mean, as long as you're not expecting a lot of strength and throw, yeah, I think that this candle did really nicely. I mean, just so strange. So strange. Like, gosh, Bath and Body Works, get it together. I also finished up a tree farm from Bath and Body Works. I thought the packaging on this collection was okay, sort of like a postcard theme here, but it was like a full colored wraparound on these candles with a very noticeable kind of seam here, but not the end of the world. It says, celebrate this wonderful time of year. And of course, since I'm up here in Canada, we get that in English and in French as well. Yeah, no major complaints about the packaging. This collection was interesting. There is a couple candles in this collection I liked. In fact, I'm burning Santa's milk Milk and Cookies right now from this collection, and I'm actually really, really enjoying that one. But anyways, Tree Farm, I think this is a good one. I get a Tree Farm every year. I do appreciate the cute lid on this collection also. I really like those lids. Something a little bit different. The scent notes on Tree Farm are crisp pine needles, warm cedar, and spiced apple. Oh, I love this one. I go back and forth on what my favorite like Bath and Body Works pine tree fragrances are every year. You know, Under the Christmas Tree is one that I really like. Fresh Balsam is obviously a classic, and that one always gives you good strength and throw. But I think that Tree Farm is a really, really great fragrance. I think that this strikes a really nice balance. It gives you a little bit of sweetness from that apple note, and a little bit of a woodsiness as well. And it is definitely that sort of like good, like sharp, like cedary wood note. And then as well, a considerable amount of pine needles and balsam in there. Yeah, I really, really like Tree Farm. I mean, when it comes to sugared pine needles, forget about that one. I think Tree Farm kind of accomplishes striking that balance between like a sharp pininess, this sort of kind of almost slightly astringent cedar wood, but then smoothing it out with a little bit of apple. But it's not like an apple forward fragrance by any means, just a little bit of apple in the background, kind of giving it like a bit of a soft sweetness. Oh, I love this one. I really enjoyed this one this year, and it burned pretty well. I burned it all the way down until I could see the wick nickels. A fairly clean burn. There is a teeny little bit of discoloration that happened there, but for the most part, it was really, really good. I don't have any major complaints about this. I'd say that the strength and throw was probably around a 6 in my more open space, which is pretty good these days for Bath and Body Works. Like a 6 means I could definitely smell it. It had an adequate amount of presence to it for me to really enjoy it and pick up on some of the nuances of the fragrance. I feel like Tree Farm used to get up to like a 7 for strength and throw. Like I feel like it used to be not a powerhouse, but a little bit stronger than it is now. It feels like this one's become a little bit weaker over the years, but still it did all right, and it's really lovely. Really lovely. Yeah, I've always liked Tree Farm a lot. Okay, moving on here, I also finished up, this is random, I finished up a Lavender and Peppermint candle from Bath and Body Works, and this is a fragrance that came out in aromatherapy last winter, I believe. It came out in aromatherapy, like full range of body care, and it's actually called Calming Skies Lavender and Peppermint. And I picked this up last year, but I never got around to burning it, and so I got around to it this year. I think the packaging on this is really beautiful, actually, and it looked gorgeous when it was burning. I really, really like the packaging on this candle. Just a lovely sort of skyline with clouds. Oh, gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And the fragrance was kind of disappointing. Like Lavender and Peppermint, you'd think would be like a fairly prominent fragrance, but this was quite a shy fragrance for me. The scent notes on here, it just says a blended aroma of lavender, cool peppermint, and warm patchouli. I mean, I really am not picking up on the patchouli. I'm not picking up on the peppermint enough. And even that lavender note, it's like a really shy, it's like a really shy kind of coy lavender note. And this was a really kind of shy fragrance, which was not what I wanted. And so I guess my expectation kind of like set this candle up to disappoint me, but it was disappointing. You know, you pick up on the lavender and the peppermint, but there's not nearly enough of either of those fragrance notes. Like, there's just no oomph to it. I'm trying to figure out exactly why that is. I mean, for one thing, I think that we've kind of come to expect the Bath and Body Works aromatherapy fragrances to hit a little bit harder than this. You know what I mean? Like it's aromatherapy. It should feel like it's like clearing your sinuses, clearing your mind, like really giving you some strong fragrance and an aromatherapy fragrance. But this is just not that at all. I'd say that the lavender note is just a really kind of soft and shy, like English lavender note. And then the peppermint, it's not like a cool, crisp, like invigorating, mentholy peppermint at all. It's like a really kind of like muted, kind of like dry and dusty peppermint note almost. And so I feel like one of those notes needed to step up to the plate a little bit more. You know, either give us a bunch of like lavender with a bit of a peppermint finish, or give us a bunch of peppermint with a little bit of a lavender finish. But this just wasn't balanced very well. And so it's kind of just this kind of one soft, kind of flat lining lavender and peppermint note. And I'm not picking up on warm patchouli in here at all. In fact, I haven't read these scent notes for a minute, and so I'm really kind of surprised to see that patchouli is listed in there, because I'm not picking up on anything even slightly like spicy or, you know, stern or funky or prominent. Like, no, just a really muted peppermint with a really muted lavender. Real bummer for me. Yeah, and when this was burning, it did not do any better. Like, my hope was that when this was burning, it would open up a little bit, but I think the opposite was true. I think it actually got lost even more when it was burning. Just a very, very, very faint, like soft, floral, minty vibe. I mean, it burned pretty nicely. I burned this all the way down to the bottom there. It did get a little bit dirty at the end, but to be fair, like, there's not much left here. I think I might have let that last burn go off a little bit longer than I should, a little bit past that 3-hour mark just to finish this one off. And so I think a little bit of that mild discoloration at the end there was my fault. But this one did dud out a little bit too, around the halfway point. Definitely like 1 or 2 burns on it where it wasn't doing very well, which is odd because these are the thin core wicks, but I am getting a lot of dud outs from Bath & Body Works this season. I'd say that the strength and the throw on this candle was like, in my more open space, it was really quite lost. Maybe like a 3.5 or a 4, meaning that I needed to be like about 4 paces away from it to really be able to pick up on it at all. I did put it in the bedroom for a while, and I'd say that it was about a 5 for strength and throw in the bedroom. So like kind of a minimum room filling presence in there. I could definitely detect it, but it just really wasn't giving me much. It really wasn't. And it's kind of odd. It's almost like there's something in here that's like negating the fragrance in a sense, you know? Like, yeah, something about this comes across as like really, really muted, right? Like kind of the way that 100% soy wax formula can often come across as a really muted fragrance. I was definitely getting that sense from here as well. Just not great. Not great, I'm afraid. Okay, that's all I had for Bath & Body Works this week. I also finished up some Goose Creek candles. Some Goose Creek candles I really liked, including this one. This one was awesome. This one is Autumn Glow. Not to be confused with Autumn Sunlight, which I talked about last week and looks almost identical to this candle. This one is Autumn Glow. And I said the same thing about Autumn Sunlight, I think last week or the week before, which is this really annoying, like misaligned seam here. Like it looks like they went through a lot of effort to make it so that the seam could line up, but then at the end of the day, it just didn't line up and created for this really obvious sort of like crack in the sunset. But overall, I like the packaging on here, and this candle looked gorgeous when it was burning. It looked really, really pretty when it was burning, so points for that. We just had a plain like Goose Creek gold metallic lid on this. The scent notes on Autumn Glow are eucalyptus, cedar leaf, cinnamon, and clove. I was very relieved that the cinnamon note in here wasn't that prominent. Definitely not going into like a red hot cinnamon territory. I'd say the most prominent scent note in here is actually the clove and the cedar wood, and there's a really nice balance there. A little bit of like a spicy sharpness from like the clove and the cedar wood, and a really lovely smooth woodsiness like in the base of it. And the eucalyptus in here is not very prominent either. And it strikes a nice balance because the clove and the cedar notes are really like quite rich and quite earthy and bassy. And then there's just sort of this whisper of like eucalyptus on top of it, which is really lovely. And it does smell like there's like a bit of a glow to this fragrance, a little bit of a warmth. Really lovely. I really enjoyed this candle. I burned it all the way down to the very bottom there. This is a really nice clean burn for a Goose Creek candle. This candle never really gave me issues with dudding out, itty bitty wicks, teeny tiny flames. Every burn was a really nice, deep, even wax pool with no issues, no problems. I do limit my Goose Creek 3-wick candles. I never let them burn for longer than like 2.5 hours. And I'd actually say that 2 hours is really kind of the sweet spot for a Goose Creek 3-wick candle if you really want to make sure that it's a nice clean burn from top to bottom. I would limit those burn times to 2 hours and make sure you're always really trimming your wicks before lighting the candle. But yeah, really nice clean burn all the way down to the bottom. And the strength and throw on this was easily a 7 in my more open space. Easily a 7. Like definitely had a really good solid presence to it and traveled as well. When it was burning, it really, that warmth and that sort of like glowy kind of sensation of the fragrance really came alive when this was burning. And even on cold, I'm really enjoying just smelling it again right now. This was a really, really nice one. Yeah, I liked Autumn Glow a lot. Goose Creek, man. I'm really loving my Goose Creek these days, you guys. I really am. I understand how these candles aren't for everybody, but man, strength and throw is often like what I care about the most, right? And I've never burned a Goose Creek candle that's been as dirty as this vanilla bean ceramic atrocity. All right, another Goose Creek candle here I really liked. This one is kind of cozy. I love the design on this collection. Just really, really simple. We've got a lightly colored wrap around, but it is quite sheer. And so the candle glowed really nicely when it was burning and cast kind of a green light around the space. And I love this gold kind of leafy illustration thing, whatever that is, in the center of it. The scent notes on Kinda Cozy are warm amber, cashmere, musk, and sugared vanilla. These are a few of my favorite things. Yes, come through amber, musk, and vanilla. This is really lovely. And with those scent notes, you would think that you'd think that this was going to be a very perfumey fragrance, right? This doesn't come across as perfumey at all. The cashmere definitely has like a linen component to it. And so it says cashmere musk. I think that I'm getting more of that cashmere than the musk, which is what I think saves it from sort of getting into a perfumey territory. It's also a little bit more of sort of a bassier, kind of fabric-y fragrance than something that you might typically find in like a woman's perfume. And there's a nice amber note. Yeah, I'd say that it's like a white amber, like a white bright amber, as opposed to like a dark, like sticky resinous kind of amber situation. This is kind of a light, bright, airy amber. In fact, the candle has a fairly light, bright, and airy vibe to it overall, which I'm not totally expecting in a fall candle that's called Kinda Cozy that has these types of scent notes. Do you know what I mean? But It works for me regardless. Yeah. A really bright amber note, a considerable amount of a cashmere and linen vibe, just a little bit of musk, and then there's a lovely, like, smooth vanilla in the base of this. It's not like a gourmandy or a creamy vanilla. It's more like kind of a soft vanilla bean vanilla. Yeah, really lovely. I like this one a lot. I burned this all the way down until there was nothing left. Did get a little bit of discoloration at the very little last bit of wax there, but nothing serious. Overall, it was a really nice clean burn from top to bottom. I do wish that the strength and throw had been a little bit stronger. I'd say this was about a 6, which I mean is pretty good. Like that's where we're averaging at for a lot of these candles here. I have slightly higher expectations of Goose Creek though. Goose Creek, most of their 3 wicks for me get to that 7 mark, and I would have liked for this one to have gotten to that 7 mark as well. A 6 was giving me enough. It was definitely giving me enough, but I could have taken even more. I could have taken even more. A 6 is fine, but a 7 would have been even better. Yeah, no, I liked Kind of Cozy a lot though. Really, really lovely. That's definitely going to be a repurchase for me, as well as that Autumn Glow candle, in case I didn't mention. Next fall, both of these candles are going to be on my repurchase list. Moving on to some not so great Goose Creek, as far as I'm concerned, news. This strawberry jam pie. I bought this candle. I mean, they had a really big sale when they were trying to clearance off a bunch of like summertime stuff. And so I think this strawberry jam pie candle went down to like $7 or $8 Canadian. And I was like, oh, what the heck? I'll use it as like a melter candle in my kitchen. And I was encouraged by the fact that it was like a strawberry jam pie situation. I thought maybe it would be like a nice kind of fruity, rich, like jammy strawberry note, but that's not really what I was getting with this at all. Like I said, I just melted this candle in my kitchen. I melted it for probably like 1.5 weeks, you know, for somewhere between 8 to like 16 hours a day. This candle did really well under the melter, but I wasn't huge on the fragrance. The scent notes say Florida strawberries, flaky pie crust, and sweet jam. Yeah, and like I was saying, I was hoping that this would be like a rich, like jammy strawberry note, but it's actually kind of like, you know what it smells like to me? It kind of smells like strawberry jello, right? Like it's kind of an artificial, like jello powdered, make up a big bowl of like strawberry jello. It kind of reminds me of that because I'm not getting that much of a bakery component in here either. There is a little bit, it says flaky pie crust, but really, for the most part, I'm getting that sort of strawberry jello note with some vanilla. And I can't say I love it. It wasn't like offensive or upsetting to me. I liked it enough to keep it under the heat lamp in my kitchen for over a week, you know? And it was quite strong at points as well. I'd say that this got up to a 7 or a 7.5 for strength and throw under the heat lamp. Of course, with the heat lamp, it's a little bit different and a little bit less consistent. I do have a heat lamp that will melt an entire like 3-wick jar. I think it's like 50 watts, and I put that heat lamp just an inch above the glass, and so it will liquefy the whole thing. And sometimes when I turn the heat lamp off, I'll take my wick dipper and just give it a good little stir to get those fragrance oils up and about, because yeah, I definitely sucked all of the fragrance out of that wax. Just, you know, not a repurchase for me, but I'm not terribly upset that I wasted $8 or whatever on it. It was kind of an interesting one, kind of a nostalgic, like, childhood trigger for me, like sweet, like strawberry jello desserts and whatnot, you know? And really not that much of a bakery component. Maybe just a titch of like, maybe just a little teeny bit of like kind of a flaky pastry vibe. but not much. Mostly just strawberry jello, guys. It's a strawberry jello candle. Yeah, strawberry jam pie. Not gonna be a repurchase for me or a recommendation for you. I don't have great I don't have great impressions of like fruit fragrances from Goose Creek, to be honest with you guys, especially not like fruity bakery fragrances. And to be fair, I'm not a big fan of like fruity bakery fragrances, but the fruit notes from Goose Creek often come across to me as quite artificial and synthesized. You know, certain brands just excel at certain things. Like I think Homeworks and I think Kringle do excellent fruit fragrances. I don't think it's a strong suit for Bath and Body Works or for Goose Creek, right? I also finished up a candle from Illume. I really love Illume. I think they have some fantastic fragrances. And this one is Balsam and Cedar. And this is the 11.8 ounce. They call these vanity tins. So the vessel is made out of tin, both the lid and sort of the main base of it here. It's got kind of a peekaboo like component to it, which I always think is really cute. And they always have like a really nice sort of shiny abstract design on the inside of the vanity tins, which I really like. I love this fragrance. I really love Illume. They do some great stuff. They have candles that come out in all different kinds of formats. They have like big formats. They have teeny little single wick formats. I've really settled on liking these 11.8 ounce single wicks the most. They actually have quite a wide diameter on them, but look at how nice this candle burned. Look at how clean the edges of that jar are. And I mean, I burned this down till there was basically nothing left in there. The wick has like disappeared. This was a great burn. In fact, I have burned this candle from Illume before. Maybe this is a newer version of it. I'm not too sure. This looks like, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how you should read their codes, but this one to me looks like it's indicating that it was poured in 2024. And the one that I burned before that was probably like a 2022 or a 23 burn. So oh, this is so nice. I got the scent notes off of the website. It says, grounded in rich oak moss with a heart of fir needles kissed with warm cinnamon. So we've got oak moss, fir needles, and cinnamon, which is kind of odd to me that they don't list like cedar or even say balsam, but fir needles, right? This is a really lovely, you know, it's not too much different than the balsam and cedar that we get from Yankee Candle. It's fairly similar to balsam and cedar from Yankee, but I think this is better. I think that this is balanced a little bit more nicely. That balsam and cedar candle from Yankee also gives me like a little bit of a sour component, whereas I don't get that from this. There is like kind of a sharpness from the cedar wood note and the balsam as well, but something about the balance in here is really lovely. There is something kind of damp and earthy and mossy about this. And the scent notes say cinnamon. I really don't pick up on the cinnamon in here either. This is just another one, another really great, like outdoorsy, sort of outdoor Christmas trees haven't been chopped down yet. We're still in a nice full forest of like fir trees. Yeah, this is a lovely one. The cedar note hits really hard, but in a good way, and it's balanced nicely. The balsam note is a little bit smoother and really, really nice. Yeah, ooh, I like this one a lot. And yeah, I've burned quite a few candles from Illume before, and I've really settled on these tins, these 11.8 ounce tins, being my favorite of their stuff, because it's at a pretty reasonable price point. I got this at a Winners for like $11 or $12, I think, like $11.99 or something. And they actually burn for a really long time. They've got a pretty wide diameter on there. So my word of warning would just be that you actually need to be able to light these candles for quite a while for them to pool out properly. You know, I was just talking about with Bath and Body Works and Goose Creek, it really seems like we need to be limiting the burn times to really short durations these days. But with these Illume candles, I'll let these burn for like 4, 5, maybe even 6 hours sometimes. You don't need to let them burn that long, but you can, which I do appreciate once in a while. And I also just like the size here. The diameter isn't that far off from a Bath and Body Works 3-wick candle, so I can just pop it into one of my, Bath and Body Works candle holders or pedestals, and they look great in there. Gotta give them some time to pool out, get a nice deep even wax pool, and start getting that strength and throw going. I thought that this candle actually performed pretty well. It's not blowing me away like in my more open space, so this was giving me a 5. So I could definitely tell that it was there. For the most part, I burned this in my bedroom in a hurricane, in which case it was getting up to like a 6 probably. I thought the strength and throw was perfectly adequate, and I really recommend, giving an Illume candle a try. If you can find them at the discount retailers, this 11.8 ounce single wick tin, if you can find them at the discount retailers for like $11 or $12, that's around what you're going to be paying at a decent Bath and Body Works candle sale, and so I would just recommend maybe giving a different brand a try once in a while, because there's something about the quality of this fragrance which isn't something that you get necessarily really from Bath and Body Works and, Goose Creek. I think that Homeworks has a similar fragrance to this. Like I said, there's a Yankee Balsam and Cedar candle which is similar but not quite as nice. Yeah, but I like this one a lot. Balsam and Cedar from Illume. Okay, I also finished up this salted caramel candle from a company called Milk Jar. And this company is based out of Calgary, where I live. Just a really, really great small business that gets really involved in the community. And this was sort of a collaboration between a local ice cream shop called Village Ice Cream. So I don't know, they did some sort of a collaboration and did this salted caramel ice cream candle. And you could actually purchase these candles in the Village ice cream shops. My buddy Crossley actually gave this to me as a present, which I thought was really, really thoughtful. And these are 8 ounce. These are 8 ounce with like a wooden wick. And it's those wooden wicks that kind of crackle and make that crackling noise. And I can never decide if I like it or not, because I go back and forth on the crackling wooden wicks. Sometimes I find it really kind of pleasant and cozy and lovely, but then sometimes I find it almost a little bit distracting. I guess it might depend on what mood I'm in, but sometimes if I'm burning a candle like this and I hear it, I'm kind of like, what is happening? Did I leave the tap running or something? I guess it just kind of depends on what I'm doing and what kind of headspace I'm in. But I thought that this candle was all right. I think the fragrance is nice. It's a really nice salty caramel fragrance. It reminds me a little bit of caramel drizzle from Bath and Body Works. I do not like caramel drizzle from Bath and Body Works. It is a little bit like that, except this is not quite as sweet as that. Definitely not as sweet, and there is a fairly considerable like briny or salty component in here, which is really quite prominent. I think sometimes you get like a salted caramel scent note, but you don't really pick up on that saltiness. In this one, you definitely do. It's kind of like a deep, kind of dry, kind of dusty caramel note almost, as opposed to being a really like sweet, ooey gooey, like creamy caramel note. I did enjoy it. I have burned quite a few candles from Milk Jar before. They are 100% soy wax candles. I'm not a huge fan of 100% soy wax. I really enjoy a good like paraffin and soy blend. I thought that this did all right though for strength and throw. I'd say that in a hurricane, I burned this in a hurricane in my bedroom, it was probably getting up to about a 5, maybe a 5.5. So I could definitely tell that it was there. I would have liked for it to have been a little bit stronger for sure. This one didn't burn as well as some other milk jar candles that I've burned before have. And what happened with this one was I just had to really keep the burn times really short, probably like an hour and a half. It was a little bit of a game of like, you know, by the time the whole candle would pool out properly and it would be projecting some strength and throw, by the time that happened, it would also like kind of start sooting a little bit and start looking like it was kind of getting to a breaking point. And it would take a really long time to pool out. But then when it did pool out, it would just go to a deep, even wax pool really, really quick. And then it would get a little bit too deep really quickly and you had to blow it out. I think the longest I could let this candle burn was probably like 2 hours. And the last time that I burned this candle, I looked down at it and there wasn't even that deep of a wax pool. There wasn't much left in there. But on the very last burn, I looked down on it and it had become really kind of discolored and grody. And I probably shouldn't have burned it for as long as I had. I should have probably called it a day when there was still like a little bit more than a centimeter of wax left on there. But hey, I mean, these candles are $37 if you just purchase them from the company or at a retail store here in the city. For $37, I expect something a little bit better than this. I'm not gonna lie. I have burned some candles from Milk Jar before that I thought did wonderfully, you know, and didn't have the same kind of problems as this one did. I could let them burn for 2.5 hours and they would be fine. But for whatever reason, this one was a little bit of a struggle. And I don't want to badmouth the company. I'm definitely going to be buying from them again because I've burned lots of great candles from them. This one just wasn't really my favorite. Okay, I also finished up this really random wax melt. I got these Halloween wax melts at Winners. They were on sale when they were clearancing off a bunch of Halloween stuff, and it was this box with like these Halloween pictures on it. It was this box of 8 wax melts, and some of them smelled really good on cold. Some of them I don't even think I'm gonna bother melting because I didn't like the way that they smelled. But I got 8 of these wax melt sleeves for like $7.99 or $8.99 on sale, and so I figured why not? Let's give them a try. The brand is called Salubrito, Salubrito, which I had never heard of before. And it says here that they are premium 100% soy wax, which I definitely do not think that these wax melts are. I know how 100% soy wax behaves and how it looks when it's melted, because 100% soy wax, when it's completely melted and liquid, it's very light. It's like lighter than water, right? It has a very apparent consistency to it, and that was just not the consistency that I was getting from this wax melt when it was fully melted. So I think that this is a little bit of a cheap and shady company. However, this one was called Pumpkin Pie, and I actually ended up really liking this fragrance when it was melting. I just melted it in this emptied out yellow Bath and Body Works jar and had it under a heat lamp in my kitchen. There's really not that much fragrance in here, but this was a really kind of nice pumpkin pie fragrance. And what it reminds me of the most is actually pumpkin carving from Bath and Body Works. This is very, very similar to pumpkin carving from BBW because you actually do get like a fairly authentic smelling pumpkin fragrance in here with just a nice kind of dose of autumnal pumpkin spice in there as well. And it's a really lovely, like soft and smooth pumpkin fragrance that I actually ended up really, really enjoying quite a bit more than I thought I would. I just melted it under a heat lamp in this thing and it actually did quite well. It didn't last very long. I'd say that 2 8-hour melting sessions and it was done. There was nothing left in here, but it was really lovely in the kitchen while it lasted, and a decent pumpkin fragrance. I'd say that the strength and throw on the first couple hours of melting this, it got up to like a very solid 7, and then like really steadily declined, which is kind of what I would expect from a 100% soy wax melt. But once again, the consistency of and the thickness of the wax when it was melted was just not what a 100% soy wax formula would be like. So this is a little bit of an odd and shady situation, but I really did end up enjoying the fragrance for a fairly short period of time. Anyways, that's all I've got for you folks this week in terms of candles that I got through. And to be honest with you, I actually didn't feature some candles in the weekly wax wrap up this week. I'm gonna roll them over to next week because I'm gonna be gone on a work trip, which we have to talk about Candle Day, you guys. Oh my goodness gracious me. Candle Day is happening next weekend, folks. Like, it is upon us. It is happening. And I love Candle Day. And I feel like in recent years, I mean, you really have to plan your budget because I feel like all of the candle companies do some form of Candle Day on this weekend now. Goose Creek always does big sales, Yankee, Homeworks. Like, Candle Day has really become all companies kind of riding on Bath & Body Works' coattails here. But Bath & Body Works is still, in my opinion, the main star of the show here. They've got a whole bunch of new fragrances coming out. I love doing a lot of shopping and stocking up on my favorite stuff during Candle Day. I've got a list here of the new fragrances that we can expect, and I'm gonna let you know the ones that I'm the most interested in and I intend on picking up. I've been thrown a little bit of a curveball though. I'm actually pre-recording this video on Friday, so right now it's Friday, guys. I'm posting this video on Sunday because I'm off for a work trip. I have to go to Ottawa and I'm gonna be there for 6 nights, and since I have to be there Monday morning and I have to be there until Friday late afternoon, I was booked to fly out Sunday night and I'm not coming back until Saturday afternoon. So like the second day of Candle Day, I don't think that when I'm in Ottawa on Friday, I'm going to be able to get to a mall. And even if I could, I'm not going to be paying that extra heavy baggage fee to bring a whole bunch of candles back. And I'm not going to lie, when I saw my itinerary, for a second there, I considered like sending off some emails to see if I could come back Friday night. But then I was like, oh, then they're probably going to check me out of the hotel on Friday, which means I'm going to have to get all my bags and leave them somewhere for the last day of the conference. And that sounds like it's going to be a pain. And so I do have plans to go into Bath & Body Works and film with Steve. I've already made Steve put it on his calendar. So what I think I'm going to do is I usually take a car to the airport for a work trip, but I think I'm actually going to drive myself to the airport and park at the airport. And then when I fly back on Saturday, luckily there's a bit of a time zone change that works in my favor. So I'm hoping to be back in Calgary around 12:30 p.m. on Saturday. And then I'm going to get into my car from the airport and drive straight to Steve's place, pick Steve up, go to the mall, do our Candle Day shopping, run back home, pop up some Prosecco, and film a Candle Day haul for all you guys. So the next video you're probably going to see from me is going to be Saturday, the second day of Candle Day. Steve and I will be shopping and posting a great big Bath & Body Works Candle Day haul. That's my plan. Fingers crossed that nothing happens to my flight on the way home. And it's so frustrating because these days, folks, I feel like there's probably about a 50% chance that there's going to be some sort of a delay or something's going to happen, but knocking on wood here that my plan is going to go off without a hitch, because truth of the matter is, if I don't get there until it's like Sunday, there's probably going to be some of these candles that I want that will already be sold out by then. So I'm also thinking I'm going to be placing a Bopis order to pick up when Steve and I finally make it to the mall on Saturday? I don't know. We're going to figure it out, but I really, really hope to be here on Saturday with a big candle day haul for everybody with Steve. I'm really looking forward to that. Come hell or high water, I'm going to get my hands on these candles somehow. The most updated list that I've seen, this to me sounds like, and there's been a lot of pictures now leaked for almost all of these candles. I got all of this information off of Tess's blog at Life Inside the Page. I feel like if you're a big Bath & Body Works enthusiast, you're probably aware of Tess from Life Inside the Page. She always gets the scoop, and it is so close now that I think that we can be fairly assured that this is indeed what we're going to see on the shelves for Candle Day this weekend. So I'm just going to go through everything we're expected to see, just sort of give my general thoughts, recommendations, what I intend on picking up. There's one collection called Host with the Most, and it's going to have black tie, 'Tis the Season, vanilla buttermint, and cranberry pear Bellini. Black tie is always nice, but I don't really think I need one. 'Tis the Season is nice, but not super exciting to me. Vanilla Buttermint is the candle from that collection that I'm definitely gonna want. Cranberry Pear Bellini has never appealed to me very much, folks, but that Vanilla Buttermint candle is definitely one that's on my radar. There's another collection called The First Signs of Spring. This is a bit of a snooze fest, but we've got Peach Bellini, Mahogany Coconut, Bergamot Waters, Fresh Cut Lilacs, Pink Apple Punch, Rosewater and Ivy, Black Teakwood, and Vanilla and Patchouli. I will probably stock up on Mahogany Coconut. Mahogany Coconut might be one of my favorite coconut candles from Bath & Body Works. Might be my favorite coconut candle from Bath & Body Works, actually. Black Teakwood I'm definitely interested in, and Vanilla and Patchouli, I'm almost positive I'm gonna want that. And then we have a White Barn Core Spring Seasonal collection dropping. This is a collection that, if I were you guys, I wouldn't be super focused on picking up, because it's going to be launching on Candle Day, but since it's their White Barn Core Spring line, we're probably going to have a lot of these candles, and so they're probably going to last like well into spring, summer, so I don't feel like these are the candles that we're really at risk of like selling out on or not getting back for like a really long period of time. But there's some real classics in here that I know a lot of people like. Paris Cafe, Pineapple Mango, Laundry Day, Vanilla Bean, Black Cherry Merlot, Cactus Blossom, Watermelon Lemonade, Rosewater and Ivy, Eucalyptus Rainfall, and Island Margarita. There are some candles in there that I like. I do a Paris Cafe once in a while. Same with Laundry Day. Vanilla Bean, I think I'm gonna give a little bit of a rest after my last experience with Vanilla Bean. Black Cherry Merlot, not something that's up my alley. Cactus Blossom, I actually really like. Watermelon Lemonade. Rosewater and Ivy, I think is nice. I do like Eucalyptus Rainfall, and I do like Island Margarita. But like I said, those are definitely not going to be my priority, because those are candles that, for the most part, we can get at some point almost every year. And like I said, since it's the White Barn Core Spring line, I don't think that we're going to be selling out of those. I'm guessing that they will be producing enough of those candles to get us all the way through till like summertime. There's going to be a body care expansion collection. I think this is interesting. Platinum, Pure Wonder, Ocean, Moonlit Path, Into the Night, Dark Kiss, and 1,000 Wishes. So I don't think we've ever had Platinum come out in a 3-wick candle before. So I've never purchased that fragrance, but I've smelled it in the store and I really, really like it. And so I'm definitely going to want to check out the Platinum 3-wick candle. Into the Night is like my favorite long-standing kind of like body care fragrance from Bath & Body Works. And even though I have quite a few Into the Nights in my stash, I probably will want to get another backup or two of Into the Night, especially if the packaging is particularly lovely on these ones. Moonlit Path I'll be interested in checking out, and Dark Kiss as well. And then there's like a holiday bucket list collection with Vanilla Balsam, which I love. I will be stocking up on that. Vanilla Balsam, Sweater Weather, Winter Candy Apple, Christmas Road Trip, Merry Mimosa, and Rum Reindeer. can't say I'm interested in most of those. Sweater Weather I always enjoy. Vanilla Balsam I love. Rum Rum Reindeer, I'll have to smell that one and then decide. But for me, the rest of those, Christmas Road Trip, I'm not sure what that's about. That one might be interesting. We're gonna get that pickle candle, I think. It's called Holiday Delight. I don't know. I'm gonna smell that in the store and see what I think. And then we have the perfect pairings. These, I'll be pretty surprised if I pick up any of these, but the perfect pairings are pizza and ranch, popcorn and slushy, chips and salsa, coffee and donuts. Chips and salsa and pizza and ranch, I can pretty much guarantee. I'm gonna smell them in the store to see what that's about, but they're probably gonna stay on the shelves. Maybe popcorn and slushy will at least smell interesting and like intriguing enough for me to want to take one home with me. And coffee and donuts, maybe that one will surprise me too, and I'll be interested in that. I'm not a big fan of like savory food fragrances for home fragrance, which is why I think popcorn and slushy is probably the most likely one I'm gonna pick up. Coffee and donuts, that could be good as long as it's not like a ton of cinnamon. I might be interested in the coffee and donuts. And then there's a Sunday Fun Day collection with glazed cherries, hot fudge drizzle, gummy candies, Neapolitan ice cream, butterscotch swirl, and sugar waffle cone. I'm wondering if that sugar waffle cone is going to be the same as that sugar cone crunch candle that we got in the summertime, because I actually did really enjoy that one. But these all sound like they're going to be misses for me. Gummy candies, I don't know, maybe that could be interesting. Hot fudge drizzle, I'm quite certain I'm not going to like. Same with glazed cherries. Neapolitan ice cream though, if they strike a really great balance of like vanilla and chocolate and strawberry, for me that fragrance, it's gonna be all about, you know, if they strike a nice interesting balance between those Neapolitan, you know, tastes, like that one might be good. Butterscotch swirl, I think I'll be sitting that one out. And then there's gonna be sun-ripened raspberry. I think that's kind of a one-off, like a keepsake candle, they're calling it. Sweet berries, sheer sunlight, and sugar crystals. That's a really long-standing fragrance, I believe, that a lot of people like in body care. I've never paid much attention to it. I don't know if we've ever seen it come out in candle form before. I might get into it, we'll see. And then there's From the Vault, so bringing back some fragrances. Smoked vanilla, I'm very, very looking forward to. Smoked vanilla is probably the candle in this entire list. I'm looking forward to smoked vanilla the most. Brown sugar and fig might make for a good candle. Blueberry sugar is not really for me. Vanilla snowflake I really like. I'll definitely be picking that up. Snow Day I also like quite a bit. And peppermint marshmallow, I like that one as well. So there's some of these From the Vault fragrances I'll be very interested in taking home with me, especially smoked vanilla. I have a really vague recollection of smoked vanilla. I remember really, really liking it though. So yeah, Candle Day is coming up, folks. I'm recording this, like I said, a little bit early. It's Friday right now, so I don't know if they have announced the prices or not. I'm assuming it'll probably be the same as last year, $9.95 in the States and $11.95 up here in Canada. We shall see. At any rate, it's the lowest price on candles that we get from Bath and Body Works, and so I do always like seize the opportunity to not only pick up some fragrances that I might not necessarily pick up otherwise, but also to stock up on some of the things that I know I love. You know, Into the Night, Mahogany Coconut, stuff like that is probably gonna be coming home with me. I wanted to talk about Voluspa again for a quick second this week. Last week, I was talking about the Voluspa candles that are a collaboration with Wicked. There's the Pink Witch candle, Galinda, which is like cherry blossom something. And then I'm really interested in the Green Witch candle, which is Palo Santo. I haven't got my hands on either of them yet, but I definitely want to. Last week in the Weekly Wax wrap-up, I was was talking about this, and I really kind of regret it because I was looking up these fragrances. And so for this entire last week, all of my social media has been stuck in this wicked algorithm. Oh my gosh, no matter how much I try blocking all of this wicked stuff, every time I open up Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, all I see are Ariana Grande and Cynthia Eriva's pointy little faces and pointy little bodies crying at each other, touching each other, being interviewed, singing. God, I am so glad that there is not going to be a third Wicked movie, because I cannot live through another one of these press tours of Wicked. It has just like enveloped all of my apps and social media. No matter how much I try to block, every time Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo pop up, I block it and I say, this is irrelevant to me. Don't show me this anymore. I just can't get my apps out of the Wicked loop. I can't. And it's so disturbing, you guys. It's so upsetting. But anyways, I was scrolling Instagram the other night, and I came across this Voluspa ad, and it just gave me a little bit of a chuckle because this ad has this woman in her living room or whatever, and she's lighting like 7 Voluspa candles like all over the place. And she lights 2 Voluspa candles. She lights them like right underneath like these potted plants that she has. And I'm just like, girl, Molly, you in danger, girl. You about to burn down your whole house. I just thought it was a really funny ad because this woman is lighting candles and then putting them directly underneath the branches of her potted plants, which are about to catch fire at any minute here and burn down your house, girl. Run for your life. Just a really, really strange ad from Voluspa, which gave me a little bit of a chuckle. And that got me to thinking, I was really hoping that Goose Creek would be doing the Wizard of Oz collaboration again this year, because when the first Wicked movie came out, we got the Wizard of Oz collaboration from Goose Creek, which were some of my favorite candles that Goose Creek has ever put out, especially that I'll Get You My Pretty candle, which was like a really weird, like smooth, dark cardamom fragrance. Oh my gosh, that I'll Get You My Pretty candle was amazing. And I was really hoping that we would get Goose Creek Wizard of Oz candles again for the second Wicked movie. But at this point, I think it's pretty safe to say that it's not going to happen, which is such a bummer, because if it was to happen, I would probably order like 3 or 4 of those I'll Get You My Pretty candles. They were so good. All right, guys, we have to talk about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and the train wreck that is this television show. The last episode I watched was another doozy, so we are still fresh off of the airplane incident where Meredith and Lisa were bullying Brittany the entire flight on the way home. Brittany was sitting in front of them, and I guess Lisa and Meredith were like poking at her seat and accidentally spilling wine on her and like pulling her hair, and it was just wild. But none of the cameras were up on this flight with the girls, and so all we have to go by is like the hearsay and the recounting of the events and the debriefs that all the girls were giving each other last week. So Brittany is still reeling from that, and all of the girls have been like very sympathetic. And at the beginning of the episode, Whitney is just like, Brittany isn't really my favorite person, but I really wanted to do something for her to help lighten her spirit a little bit. After what she went through on that plane with Lisa and Meredith, I just really want to do something for her to lift her up and show her that she does have some girlfriends that care about her no matter what's happening in the group. So they have like this weird, strange, stupid little get together for to make Brittany feel better. And Lisa and Meredith are like not invited. And so when they're having that weird little get together, they have all sort of come to a conclusion that they are gonna stand united against Meredith and Lisa. And it struck me when they were having that conversation that maybe this is what's happening. Every once in a while during the Real Housewives, like on any of their franchises, every once once in a while, all of the girls will kind of gang up to get somebody out of the cast. You know, like I'm pretty sure this is what happened to Lisa Vanderpump with the whole Puppygate in the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. We've definitely seen it happen on the Real Housewives of OC and in New York. And so I'm kind of wondering if, like, you know, because this whole incident on the plane, it wasn't caught on camera, it wasn't recorded. And so I'm wondering if maybe this is just an opportunity for all of the girls, for Mary, for Whitney, for Heather, for Brittany, to kind of gang up on Lisa and Meredith and maybe like get them out of there. I don't think it's going to play out that way. I don't think it's going to happen, but maybe that's a little bit of what's happening here, because something always kind of needs to happen that's off camera. There's kind of a controversy to be sparked, you know, which might lead to one of the girls like getting kicked off the show. In this case, maybe Meredith like might be on the chopping block. Who knows? It's hard to say. But then later on in the episode, we get this horrible scene with Brittany and her on again, off again boyfriend. They go for a walk together in like this ugly, like wooded path somewhere and just have the most emotionally immature conversation that I have ever seen. I don't know why. I'm not too sure why we're spending so much time on Brittany. She's not even a fully fledged housewife right now. She's just a friend of, but she seems to be taking up a lot of the airtime on this season, and nobody is supporting her relationship with this other weird guy who came, by the way, to film in this weird forest with Brittany. He came fully coiffed and airbrushed and ready for his close-up, like, and anyways, the two of them just have this conversation, which quite frankly had the emotional maturity of like a 12 or a 13-year-old like junior high relationship. You know what I mean? Just very, very strange. But what the meat and potatoes of this entire episode really was, this was a Mary episode. This was a Mary takes us to church episode. Woo, hallelujah. Mary's church is reopened. And Mary's church, there's a whole bunch of shady stuff happening here that I'm going to get into. Mary's church hasn't really been a focal point of the show for like 2 or 3 seasons right now, because it got shut down amidst a whole bunch of like controversy and turmoil. And so I was like talking to Chat GTP. You know, some people use Chat GPT to make their lives more efficient, you know, help them out with work tasks, maybe a mild medical diagnosis. I mostly use Chat GTP to figure out what is happening with the Real Housewives franchises, because this whole Mary's church thing has been such a weird storyline that we've never really had any clarity on, but it's always kind of felt like where there's smoke, there's fire, you know? And this whole church, it was closed for a couple of years, and the whole weird thing about like Mary marrying her step-grandfather, just bizarre. And so I asked ChatGTP, I was like, I think my prompt was something like, Mary from the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, so much controversy has swirled around her personal life and the church that she runs, and allegations that she has been a bit of a cult leader. I was like, please list all of the weird things that have happened and been reported regarding Mary and her church. And so ChatGTP really broke it down for me like a good girlfriend. And it gave me 15 answers and reasons as to why Mary and her church are shady, and I'm going to share them with you because this really was just a bizarre episode. And of course, it's all masked in like, amen, praise Jesus. Like all of the girls show up to Mary's church, and Mary is just preaching from the pulpit, you know, thinking of my mother up in heaven, and I love her so much, and I want to say amen. And she points out each and every one of the girls from the cast at some point in her sermon, you know, Whitney, Jesus sees you and Jesus loves you. Amen. Meredith, Jesus knows your strength. Jesus knows what you've been through. Jesus sees your struggle and gives you the grace of God. I mean, it was just really something else. Mary's doing a full-blown like, whoop, Amen. You know, I've always wanted to go to one of those really fun looking churches where everyone's standing up and hooting and hollering and wearing big hats and fancy dresses. I grew up in a real like Orthodox church, and it was all like doom and gloom and hum brum bring bring brum and like incense and crossing yourself, and no one's allowed to ever smile or laugh. So I would love to go to a church like this. Oh my God, I would love to go and see Mary give a good sermon at a church and get real into it, you know? Whoo, hallelujah! Like, I've never had that kind of a churchy experience, and so it always does kind of look like a lot of fun when you see it on TV. But Mary's church has been up to some shady stuff, and Mary is shady too. Let's not forget the robust list of Real Housewives mugshots that we have accumulated over the years, including probably one of the highest level criminals of all being from the Salt Lake City cast, Jen Shah. Jen Shah, by the way, is still in jail, but she's getting out real soon. I was talking to somebody in the comments section. We're wondering if like they're gonna let Jen Shah back on the show when she gets out of jail. I know that Andy Cohen has gone on the record as saying that, like, you know, Jen Shah ran one of those like internet scam companies that was like scamming old people out of their retirement funds. I don't think that Andy would feel right about letting Jen Shah back on the show, but my gosh, would it ever make for some good TV if they did? That's a real catch-22. I wonder what they're gonna do. But anyway, so ChatGTP listed all of the reasons for me as to why Mary and her church are shady, and they are illuminating. Number one, Mary Cosby inherited her church after her grandmother's death, but only after marrying her grandmother's widower, a twist that shocked relatives and splintered the congregation. Number two, former family members claimed the marriage was coerced to keep control of church power and assets, while Mary insisted that it was God's will. Number three, ex-congregants later accused Mary of running the church like a cult, saying members were pressured to treat her as divinely chosen and unquestionable. And I mean, that really checks out for Mary's personality traits. That sounds very on brand. Mary does not enjoy being questioned. Number four, some allege she shamed members for not giving enough money and suggested that financial blessings depended on loyalty to her. Number five, others claimed she isolated followers, discouraging outside relationships, and used fear of damnation to maintain control. So this is all sounding very culty to me. Number six, Mary denied all of it, but the rumors intensified once she appeared on The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, giving the scandal a bigger stage. So once again, you know, we just have another woman going on this show thinking that she's just going to be able to keep all of her scandals and all of the stuff that's happened in her past under wraps, you know? Like, just the lack of self-awareness here. Number seven, tabloids ran stories about parishioners handing over their entire life savings, designer gifts, and labor to Mary while she flaunted luxury on camera. Number eight, then came a dramatic lawsuit accusing church executives of embezzling more than $6 million, exposing messy finances and internal power struggles. There is a reason why this church has been closed down for 2 years, and I don't believe for 1 second. Mary is saying that the church was closed for 2 years for construction and, you know, just making sure that everything looks perfect. Like, she goes on a walkthrough of the church and she's like, there's a little scratch on that bench there. I don't like the way that this ivory color looks. Like, she went around the church nitpicking, but the church looked pretty much identically the same to me and to a lot of other viewers that have been watching this. Okay, number nine, the lawsuit made some critics wonder whether the money chaos reflected deeper impropriety inside the church. Number 10, former members have gone public in interviews describing the church as abusive, controlling, and spiritually manipulative. Let me think. Has Mary ever exhibited any behavior on the show that would be considered abusive, controlling, or manipulative? Pretty much in every episode. Okay, number 11. Bravo fans started calling her a cult leader, and the label stuck online even though she was never charged with a crime. So technically, Mary has not been charged with a crime yet. But like I say, guys, with these housewife things, where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay, number 12. Rumors swirled that the church had quietly closed or shrunk due to scandal and reputation fallout. Don't think for 1 second that I didn't notice this church scene in the latest episode. This was not a full house, people. This was not a full house. And don't try to tell me that they're doing that for filming purposes, because they like to have a packed house when they're filming some of these Real Housewives event. This was a very select few. And I also think that the way that the scene was edited inside the church, it felt like it was kind of edited and shot to look like the church was more packed and more busy than it actually was. Like, they had really, really long pews, but there were only like 4 or 5 people to a pew. Like, the upper level looked like it was pretty staggered and empty. I thought it was very suspicious that there was such a poor turnout for this grand relaunching of the church and Mary's big sermon. Why don't we have more people here, guys? Very, very strange. Number 13, a documentary project promised to expose the truth with ex-members and cult experts has been in production, adding even more fuel. I'll be interested to watch that. Number 14, Mary responded by dismissing everything as lies, jealousy, and sensationalism created for TV. Once again, folks, where there's smoke, there's fire. Number 15, the result. A reality star wrapped in a gothic mix of alleged cult behavior, a taboo marriage, money, mysteries, and wounded ex-followers with no final verdict, just a never-ending drama. And that's the way I like my Real Housewives, you guys. I've got to say, I'm fully invested still in the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are and what you think of this ridiculous batch of women. Just absolutely one of the strangest groups of women that Bravo has ever managed to assemble for one of these franchises. Oof. That's all I've got for you folks today. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you for watching today. You can follow me on Instagram at allabootcandles. Email those burning questions to allabootcandles@gmail.com. If you could hit me up with a like, comment, subscribe to my channel, give me some of those hype points, I would really appreciate it. And until next time, my dear, gorgeous, and beautiful candle-loving friends, let's burn some candles and bitch about it. I'll see you next weekend for Candle Day, folks. Take care. Bye.